Bea Davis from Berlin, and I'm a comic artist. Been doing this for a couple years.
I'm Ren. I'm from the Philippines, and I'm also a comic artist. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years. And I'm guessing that we have to do this thing that they told us to do.
Yeah, am I supposed to flip the first card? Let's retry. Okay, let's do this. What made you choose to write about certain issues? Why do you feel these stories need to be told?
Well, I feel like my stories at the moment have been a little selfish, or mostly for myself.
Why?
Kind of like as I feel like they're my personal anxieties that have kind of like pursued the most absurd or most scary end of in a way. So I feel like I've just been lucky that people have been kind of down to listen and interact with the work as well. And I feel like that's also influenced me to be more, I guess, less selfish about my work as well, and be more mindful in terms of like realizing that people are willing to listen. So maybe I should try to communicate certain things better or work towards that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I understand what you mean by saying, this is kind of selfish, because of course, I also want to talk about the things that motivate me, the things that interest me. When you make a comic, you spend so much of your lifetime on this comic. Of course, it needs to be something that is really intimate somehow. And I always find it very moving when I see that people can relate to that. So in that case, I wouldn't call it selfish. I actually like the fact that a lot of people, they can find a connection with our topics.
I think it's also kind of, of course it starts out as something for you, and I feel like because it is a comic and you look at it all the time, and you draw these characters like over and over, so of course you have to enjoy yourself and kind of be in tune with your craft and what interests you. And once the work is out there and you get a certain reception and you get interaction from people, and it is like really, really heartwarming when you, even if it's not what you intended for the work to be, if they come with this completely different interpretation, it's always like, oh, yeah,
that's an interesting.
That's interesting, but also I don't want to correct you, because if the work finishes in your mind in a certain way, I'd like for them to have that as well.
Totally. For me, it's extremely interesting to see, to think that every time somebody reads my book, each person that reads the book is reading a different book somehow. The story develops in their head in a completely different way, and I think that's absolutely amazing. I really love that about the job.
Yeah, and the fact that they're so kind of willing to share that as well, and I feel like it kind of gives back to your practice in some way.
Yes.
That's like it's feedback, of course. Like,
right.
this is how I, from a certain place or a certain place in life, interpret this book. So it's how crude to call it data gathering.
I need to say something, actually. This is something that happened recently with my new book, because this book has very complicated topics, several different topics, and some people come to me and they have such an amazing interpretation about the book. That's very smart. I might use this. And the next time somebody asks me something,
it's like, oh yes, of course.
Yes,
yes,
that was exactly
yes,
what I was.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was planning.
Right.
What are we supposed to do with the cards that they're there?
Yeah, I'm gonna put them on.
As a coaster. Yeah. Next is, are you conscious of representing women in your work?
That's it's a big question. I mean, it's a really big question. Like, a lot of people have asked me, people that are smarter than me have asked me, how do you feel about being a woman making comics. I'm like, how am I supposed to feel? I am a woman and I make comics. I never really gave so much thought to it, you know. And I honestly, I don't want to. I want to do the best I can. This is something like I have as a work ethic. Let's say, you know, I want to give the best I can, and without having to think about my gender. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I do feel kind of weirder on this question as well. Mostly because I think I did start my posting online, and a lot of people thought I was a guy because Ren is actually like a boy name, kind of, or at least a gender neutral name. So they found out I was a girl. It was always like surprising, but that's never. I suppose, of course, as women we must take up space. And
you're the female quote.
But it's a little strange because of course in the physical spaces there aren't a lot of women per se, but I've always grown up surrounded by very powerful like women writers and artists. My favorite manga is Fullmetal Alchemist, which was made by a woman, and I never questioned that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the local comics people that I look up to are also women, and maybe it's because I grew up on the internet.
Yes, everything is available. Yeah, I mean, I do think about how I represent the women in my comics, of course. No, so I guess that I do give it a double, third, triple thought. You know, how are my female figures? What do they say? What's you know? How are they strong and all? Yeah, but it's funny that you mentioned that people thought you were a boy drawing, because I got this comment very often, like, oh, you draw like a boy. I never was supposed to draw. Like, how am I supposed to draw? I don't draw enough flowers in the comics or what. I don't really know what they mean. But yeah.
And in terms of like writing, it's just writing, and also I'm not quite sure how to approach this kind of question actually.
So whether we are conscious of representing women in our work,
I suppose it's a thing to be more aware of, maybe, that we're not playing into the usual tropes. I hear what you said about kind of doing a once over or like a reconsidering how certain things play out. But yeah, it's at the end of the day always like a service to the story, always to its message.
Yes, exactly.
Is this now my coaster?
Yes, there you go, it's yours. I wonder if there is sequel. Yeah. But what comes first for you, the story or the image? That's a good question.
Oh, for me, it's definitely the images because I don't script.
No, neither.
I think it's a little hard to script actually because I started out in painting, so I think in images mostly. And actually, if I'm actually presented with a formal script, I'm like, what am I looking at? What does this mean? Which makes it difficult to work with writers, of course.
Well, when I presented scripts, I'm like, why did you write so much? Where am I supposed to put all this text? And it's always like the same thing. And when I think about my comics, it's always first the images for the scenes and the setting and how do the people look and stuff, and then the dialogues come the second phase. This question was asked to me today already. Yeah, and I really find it very, very fun. The fact that when I get a script, that of course, what are they supposed to do? Writers write, but they always write too much for comics. They just like the amount of text.
I do appreciate like a writer with like a clear vision, but also, would you like to try and thumbnail this? and it's really interesting. A thing that I do now, or something that I've been trying to do, is if I start working with a new writer, I ask them, okay, can you draw a bike for me?
Oh, that's a mean one. Though.
Or I think of it more as like a horse.
That's
It's like a little empathy exercise.
Horses on bicycles.
So next time you say, oh, a bicycle, like you pass this character, or there's like a group of bicycles, you can be like, maybe Ren will have a hard time.
Can you think about that? Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of bicycles in Berlin.
Yeah.
In my book, oh my god, I have to draw so many bicycles. And I had all my references on the computer always open because I'm like, wait, is this a bicycle? Yeah, it has 2 wheels, it must be a bicycle.
And I did take note of that when I was reading your book. These are bikes. There are bikes in this book, and it's like a monster on its own.
And also, like if you've been in Berlin, if you're around Berlin enough, there's not only bicycles everywhere. There is bicycles on top of bicycles, and there's just piles of abandoned bicycles in the city. You know, because you see that some are missing a wheel, others are missing. You know, so they're just like stayed there chained forever for eternity, and people just keep chaining other bicycles. So there's this like very interesting contemporary art situation around the streets that makes it very typical Berlin, and I try to implement these in the book every now and then, but it's always so much.
It's part of their character, but it's again drawing a bike. It's still drawing a bike.
So when you when you think about a story, do you try to sketch down the characters first, or you go with scenes and settings?
I studied architecture for like a year, so I did enjoy it, and then I left because of the math. But I think of in terms of beginning a story, it's always, I want to draw this cool thing. How do I get to this cool thing? Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to the technical aspects, it's like them dancing around in like a space. So I don't know if that makes any sense. And then it's starting to like move around in this 3D kind of cube and following them around with like a camera in my head. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does make sense. You know, I like making comics. There's a lot of choreography. You know, it's like making a theater piece on a book somehow, or it's like or a movie or whatever you want. It's just, but it's different. But it's not. You know, it's comics. It's a whole different thing.
It's making it legible as well, as characters move. It's like sometimes they can get lost in a scene, and you kind of want to anchor them somehow. And it is a lot of choreography. It is a lot of like staging, and but I've always thought of, or rather, the way I work is the images come first, and then unfortunately the text comes later, which is a bit of a pain, I think, when it comes to editing, because then it's like, okay, I can't actually fit this line here. I like this image too much. And
but you feel self-conscious about the text? If images is what's closer to you, how do you feel about writing?
I actually started in like silent comics for a good chunk, because it was so I didn't really trust how I wrote dialogue, and when I started it for the first time, some very wonderful friends of mine told me that this is kind of
really?
Yeah, but I appreciated that. I appreciated that completely.
Yes, no, but me too, actually. So not only I'm very self-conscious about writing, but I also started this book. I wrote it in German, which is not my it's not my first language. So I had some friends reading it, and oh my gosh, this book had to be corrected so often, like all my mistakes and the way people talk and all that stuff. There was a lot of fine tuning there, and I also had these good friends to tell me
to wince. All they need is to wince, and they're like, okay, give it back. But I do appreciate that kind of feedback. Now it feels a little bit more free flowing. Would you say it's the same for you after working in comics for a bit?
Yeah, I guess I mean, one big barrier was
the language.
Yeah, was the language, and now I think now I'm not scared about it anymore too much.
And it's nice to know that you have friends who will wince when it's
exactly. Yeah, they will always want to assist me along the path.
Free proofreading.
Okay.
Okay, next is Would you say that the communities you write about are the ones who get to read your stories?
Yes, that's great. I wish they did. I actually really wish they did. And this is always, I think this is a big conflict about making comics, because in the end, I mean, at least in Germany, there's an elite public that is reading certain graphic novels. So if I'm talking about communities or like, for example, very poor people in society, I know that they won't, most likely they won't read my comic. And I think that's a pity. And I hope, even going to the libraries, like a lot of people cannot afford or don't want to afford buying graphic novels because they're more expensive than other books. And I totally understand that. It's a difficult time in the world. So there's definitely a group of people that goes to libraries, and I hope they read this book in a library. Just, but I've been thinking recently if there is a way of making maybe a public reading, or something in a place where I can reach some of the people I talk about. Yes, I don't know.
And I feel the same way. Like, you can only wish, right? You can only wish for the communities to read about it. In the Philippines, I feel like it's the same way. The books are expensive, books in general, but graphic novels more so. We have a lot to consider with regards to printing, a little bit more than a regular book. In the Philippines, it's not just a distribution issue, and I feel like you were saying the same thing. It's also a literacy and accessibility issue as well. We don't have too many libraries, or we're just starting to put up more public libraries now. And there's also a bit of an issue in terms of like language, because we're so linguistically diverse, and that goes back to us being an archipelago. So it's a little hard. We do have a national language, but a lot of people prefer to read or prefer to interact in their own dialect or in their own language, in their mother tongue. So there's a lot of stuff to consider. And while I do try to make some of my shorter stuff available online, I feel like that can only do so much, really, in terms of how widely you're read. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Actually, it does. I think it's important that we ask ourselves this question about our like who do we reach? Who do we really reach, and who would we like to reach, and how is that possible? And I think, like for me, like at least for my last book, Super-GAU, I would love to present this book in high schools, because I think that a lot of young people who are about to step into the adult age are asking themselves questions about the world, about society, about what is our place in society, and how do we relate to this everything that is happening in the world. And if that happens, I'm happy.
I noticed you do a lot of reportage as well. So do you feel like those have been more widely read or have reached certain communities that you've talked about?
It's always so hard to really know who is reading your work, who are you actually connecting with. I think this is, once the project is published, once the book is out or whatever, I kind of lose track. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But before, this is something that I really like also about our profession, is that there is a lot of, like, especially in reportage, there's a lot of talking with people, and that is where I really get in touch with these communities. So in form of interviews, in form of just like sitting around and drinking something together, whatever the form. Sometimes what happened, like when I was working in this shelter for homeless people, there was a cafe where they would get food, coffee, whatever, clean clothes. And I would just sit around and start drawing on my own sketchbook. And that was they only needed that to come to me and look at what I was doing, and then starting to talk. And then we started to talk to each other, and for me, that was one of the most important exchanges ever, probably.
Yeah, and that's still kind of like an aspect of reaching a community as well through your artwork. That's really cool, actually.
And I think, yeah, exactly. So in that sense, I reached them, maybe not with the finished work, but with the process.
Yeah, they're actively like taking part in the artwork
without really knowing sometimes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really cool. Also, that's something that you portrayed in your graphic novel, which I find interesting as well.
Well, definitely, a lot of the scenes in this shelter in the graphic novel happen to me. I actually also got the punch in the face, by the way.
Oh. So that was, you really felt that.
I really felt that. It wasn't addressed to me. It was like in the book. It wasn't addressed to me, but it was like, bam, right there. Like, oh. Okay.
All right.
We go to the next one. This is yours. Let's see. Get this one. Relevance of comic books and graphic novels in the Philippines and Germany, respectively.
Well, we do have a pretty long history of comic books, and we very recently had this a bit of a boom because of, unfortunately, the lockdown, and everyone had a lot of time to like work on their manuscripts. And this wasn't just for comics; it was for a lot of things. Suddenly, everyone had the time. No long commutes.
Comics now.
which is very interesting, and everyone started to post. Right now, I'd say we have a pretty good set of like comic strip makers, and they're very present online, and it's really cool to see them like churning these works out pretty frequently. We also have a pretty lively political cartoon or political how do I say this, like satirists online, and I feel like they get like a really good reach because we're pretty online in the Philippines. Like Facebook is a thing.
Yeah, it's okay. Wow,
Facebook is
on Facebook.
Yes. Yeah, Facebook and social media, they get quite a bit of traction, and what I really like about our more political cartoonists like Ren and cartoonist Zach, they're able to kind of immortalize a particular period of time or something that's happened, but they've also kind of shown or show a particular position as well. So it's like this nice little time capsule of sorts, which I think I'm already like going onto a tangent here,
but so do you think that like from this perspective, let's say like topic wise, are the comic makers in the Philippines getting braver, or are they more open than they used to be, or?
I feel like they're definitely very vocal about what they believe in, regardless of what that may be, and which is something that I really appreciate about how we make comics as well. Brave, yeah. I think so. Actually, it's nice that you put it that way because
it is.
Yeah.
No, it is brave, and I mean, of course, it depends on where you are. But now, for example, I'm just thinking about the U.S. I can imagine that being political in your comics is not gonna make your life very easy. You know, if you're a cartoonist in the U.S. or French, we know what happened in France, people doing political cartoons. So I do think it's brave, but I also think that it's extremely important, and it's something that this medium can do extremely well. Like political content, put in a way that it's easily digestible and people can understand.
A lot of people say that comics are for kids, but that's not an insult to me.
Not at all. No. I mean, kids are super smart. And it's also like, I like the fact that people think that comics are harmless, and they don't notice how much comics are influencing the way they think and the way they, like how much power comics actually have.
And absolutely, how accessible and how how easy it is to digest is often like overlooked, which does contribute to a little bit to the bravery.
Right, but I also think, like, getting back to the question, the relevance of comics, for example, in Germany, I think that it's really growing. I don't know if it will reach a peak at a certain point, or it will go back down, who knows, but in the recent years, there's definitely more and more institutions, for example, that are interested in producing comics to explain their content. So there is a lot of comic artists that are being asked, can you make a comic about whatever this is, they come, these NGOs or whatever, they come with, their topics, and like, we want to tell this story, would you draw it? And I think this is just a sign that shows that people have understood what the power of comics can be.
I think of like an IKEA diagram as a little bit of, it's kind of like a
good
comic.
example. Yes, it's a bad comic though, that doesn't explain very well.
Not the paneling, not great. Yeah, but I feel like Japan does that pretty well already, right? It's kind of integrated into their education. I feel like we were forced to learn Japanese in a particular college class, and the comics were really, really helpful as well.
Well, comics were helpful to me to learn German. I arrived 12 years ago, my German was awful. It was really, really bad. And then, of course, there's so many public libraries in Berlin, so I just walked in and came back home with like 20 different comic books, and comics has this thing that you can read it, even if you cannot read it, you still can read it, you can follow the story. And also the fact that it's mostly based on dialogues makes it makes you learn the language in a way that it's useful. So you don't read it in like as if you're reading a book. You don't speak like a book, but you might speak like a book.
I'm actually kind of interested in, you were mentioning that institutions want, is there like a kind of style that they're...
No, because they have no idea about art mostly. No, this is something that so far has always worked to the advantage of people making comics, because a lot of these institutions that usually, for example, they make their reports in form of a book that has 0 illustrations, maybe some photos here and there, and it's not really easy to digest. They notice nobody's reading this. Let's make a comic. But they don't really know what they want. It can be bad sometimes for the person who's working with them, but it can also come to their advantage.
Like you're free.
Like you're free because the client has no clue.
I see. So now that's on record.
Yes, you take what I say, and of course, it always depends on the person you're working with. But often when I got this kind of requests, it was like, just do your thing
and see what sticks. Kind of. Is this relatively new as well?
You mean like this?
The interest in this kind of work in Germany.
I think it's increasing. I mean, it's more and more. It's more and more. Yeah. Or this is the way I perceive it. But no, I think that it is something that is growing, because yes, that the relevance of comics in society is growing. Question to read? The relevance of comics.
No, I feel like you were the one who read this.
Okay. So there you go. So I picked it for you.
Why is it upside down? Okay. Oh, this one's pretty fun. Do you have local and international role models for your creative process?
I have a bunch of people I really admire.
Maybe like who do you think influenced your style or your process? So your storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, process, I really have no clue. I don't know how other people work, and I really notice by talking with other people that everybody works in a very different way. So my creative process is a lot of trial and error, definitely. Mostly error. And whose work do I really admire? There's definitely a lot of local German artists that I admire a lot. Also because I know how hard it is to make comics in Germany. Because maybe this is a point, I wonder if there is a question somewhere over there. But comics are not well paid. The production of comics is not well paid. It's better paid in certain countries, and in Germany is definitely not. enough to make a living out of it, So in that sense, I admire these people working in Germany double. Not only because I love their work, but also because I know that they probably did it for nothing, or close to nothing. So I have double respect. So, for example, Michael Ross, I totally recommend you read his books. He's great. He's great in his stories, his drawing. So Michael Ross, and then who do I? There's this Japanese artist living in Berlin that I really love. I love her work a lot, and she's called Maki Shimizu. But I think it's mostly like I love to read their work, but I'm not sure how much they influence the way I work. I don't know if do you have somebody you look up to?
In terms of like influence, I feel like a lot of childhood stuff.
Right.
Absolutely. We were just talking about witch.
Yes, we were talking about witch. I know. I don't know if that influenced the way I drew, but definitely the way I was.
Like the passion for.
Yeah.
The passion for comics, maybe. And I grew up on a lot of manga, like a lot of manga. Embarrassing.
No, never embarrassing.
And I feel like this is strange because it's of course I love a lot of our local comiqueros as well. Dead Benefest is created this very beautiful, very very strangely formatted graphic novel that incorporates a lot of Filipino motifs, but also like the geography and the movement of land in her story. And the comic book is formatted horizontally, so it's unique in that way.
Okay,
Impossible to put on the shelf.
Yeah, no.
But like I feel like in terms of creative process, I guess I go back to this one artist who is not a comic artist, but I studied him when I was in college. His name is Ed Kienholz, Kienholz. And he's actually a junk artist. Like he collects junk and creates these assemblages of certain scenes.
You would love to work with Berlin bicycles.
I assume so, yes. And he said something about how he learns about culture from the things that he sees that are discarded.
Mm-hmm.
And yes. I feel like I encountered it in a documentary of sorts. He said something about how art is something that makes you feel like this is not the exact book. This is absolutely not the exact book. But this is what I took away from it. He said something along the lines of like art is something that makes you, the artist, feel like death is further away, or it like prolongs time. And that really kind of stuck with me, and even in comics, because what are we doing except like manipulating time?
Yes.
Visually. So this is a huge tangent.
Yes, that's fine. Let's talk about timing in comics. This is super fascinating because this actually fascinates me to the level that I try to make it I try to work with it in an extreme way. In my graphic novel, everything is happening in one day, so it's 108 pages, but it's all one day, and I really love. It's for me so fun in the creative process, trying to understand how fast and how slow will people read the scenes. No, so stretching certain scenes so that they will stay on certain details, or making quicker, smaller panels so that they will jump from a panel to the other in a faster way. Yeah, I really enjoy that. But yeah, as I bet you do as well, because you're comic. I mean, you do it really well.
Thank you. I also noticed that in your comic book, I feel like you do it very effectively, especially through the use of. Is this a spoiler? We love to talk about
Please still read the book anyway.
You know what? Never mind. We'll talk about that.
No, do that.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of the spaces where things are just allowed to breathe, and then kind of juxtaposing that with kind of this rapid fire. They don't have an info dump because it's so well done, but all of this information in certain channels, and I feel like this is a spoiler. This particular part. I'm gonna like clap my hand. So maybe They can edit that out if they so desire.
But anyways, this is definitely something that I keep in mind throughout the process. Like, if there's a moment I want the readers to stop, for example, I give them a big double page, and then they breathe, and then they change the page, and then it goes on again. You know, it's like as if you take just a moment to read, your readers are breathing, and then they go on.
And also, that's another thing is like hopefully when they read it a second time, maybe there's something fun that they missed. And
Yes.
it's like more exciting that way, because I did read your comic book like a second time, and there are some things that I kind of overlooked.
But I have to ask you a question. How did you read it?
Through Google Lens.
Genius.
So of course there are a lot of like beautiful pages where there's like no dialogue, like yes, but most of it was like
I want a photo of that.
it was like this, and I would read for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But I kind of
lot of effort.
Worth it, of course, but I love reading comics in foreign languages as well. I actually do like a first pass, not doing the Google Lens thing, because it kind of reminds you what it's like to not be able to read.
Yeah.
And it's like also like this kind of empathy exercise as well. And also it's nice to like test the legibility of your panels in that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. But unfortunately, you cannot really. Or yeah, maybe you can do it with your own work. For example, you can do it with your comic book in German, right? Because you don't read German, so oh yeah, that's nice.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
It was like, who wrote this?
Oh.
It was pretty fun. Yeah.
Actually, one of my books was published in Korean,
Mm.
and my father is Korean, but I don't speak Korean, nor I read it. So I got this book, and for me it was very fascinating to think that actually they could write anything. They could totally write anything, and for me it would be like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I wrote.
Yeah.
And I feel like you do have to like let go a little bit when it comes to translation and
Exactly.
like trust whoever is doing it to represent you in that way. It's very strange to encounter your work like translated and like give it back.
Yes. You're back and you look different. That's okay. I love you.
Different paper too, different printing size.
Different colors sometimes. Oh my gosh, the Koreans, they changed the cover completely. Not really, but what do you say? It's printed right now. They printed it already, so nothing I can say. Oh no, is this the question of before? No. I'm fearing this one question coming with. So, this is a question to you. Look, Ren, your work explores power structures in the Philippines, while Bea, your work examines European struggles. What parallels do you see between these two landscapes?
Does my work do that? Okay. If you wish.
Power structures.
In terms of parallels, if we go mathematic, that assumes we never meet, right? But I feel like, especially in your work, it's about how we kind of intersect in certain ways as well. I feel like my approach to enjoying like a work these days has been, I suppose it always is in two layers, and this is also how I wish my work would be interpreted. It's that there's always at the beginning you always empathize with the character, but then you kind of like zoom out and then question who am I actually in this story? If I'm not the character, am I somewhere else? And do I identify with someone else? Am I the bad guy? Those kinds of readings as well. Let me go back to the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is definitely some thematic overlapping, I feel, in your last graphic novel and my last graphic novel. Like, I think that the family issues, for example, this is not like maybe the main topic in my work, but there's a journalist that pointed it out, how family structures are important in the graphic novel, and it's also like in your work, like these families struggle. For me, it's so predominant, No, it's definitely like for me the main character is definitely not the rooster, and but it's the struggle of this family, you know, trying to make ends meet, and but also trying, you know, struggling to go to college, struggling to have enough money to, you know, or to buy sweets for the girl, for example, and in my comic there's
multiple families,
several families, and somehow they all have to, you know, either they separated and they lost contact, or they are together struggling to find their shape with what's left of the family. Yeah, so I think that this is definitely something that overlaps in our work somehow.
I thought it was like very beautiful how eventually it became like, how are these? And when I was reading your graphic novel, it started to become a mystery to me. Like a mystery had to solve how these people connected with each other towards the end. And after reading it for the first time, not knowing what was being said, it was like another kind of layer to that. But you're absolutely right with the family structure, because they are very different dynamics explored throughout your comic book. And you're right. I very cool that journalist pointed it out.
Yeah, it was not very evident to me before he pointed it out the way he did. And what I find it interesting now to think about is that, I mean, there's struggles everywhere, unfortunately. I think that in the core of every family there is some sort of struggle. Like a family cluster is not easy to keep together. You know, maybe some religion would want to make you think differently, but it's not that easy. You know, there's these two people who come together who are supposed to love each other, and then there's a third person you don't know that comes into the family, and it's a little child, and you need to provide for this child, and you need to give. There's so much of yourself that you need to put into some drawer way in the back just to be able to take care of this little person. And it's all that there's so many conflicts in every family. No family is perfect, and I think that and society plays such an important role and on the well-being of a family, right? And I think that we see this a lot in your work, and I thought about this also in my last graphic novel.
And it's also, I like how in your work it's kind of an exploration of how while we are broken in like different ways, or
yeah, broken is a good word.
We're broken in different ways, but we're also so interconnected to each other. And we think of families as units usually, but we're all interconnected, like
beyond
these different
the family,
beyond the
right?
family unit.
Yeah,
I feel your work shows that very well. How do I talk about it? But it sounded like I'm bumping into to this issue quite often, but maybe I'll pause right here.
Okay. So your turn.
All right. Oh, 4 left. Did you enjoy the chocolate so far?
It's great. Yes, I don't think I have enough time now to eat the rest, but later after the
Probably.
It's really good.
Why do you choose to tell your stories as a graphic novelist, or maybe through graphic novels?
If I may use a very trivial metaphor, you know, like an apple tree makes apples. I don't really think I will be able to do anything else, so that's why I'm doing comics. Or of course, maybe it's not like completely true, but it turns out somehow graphic novels or comics, the medium comics, is what works best for me. Like for example, if I had a topic, a story I wanted to tell, I would never grab the camera and start filming. Never. I don't know. Or also, like, I wouldn't sit on the laptop and write it down. I would just start scribbling, and then it would slowly just form.
Do you feel like there's like a point in your life where you thought that this is absolutely how I want to proceed, how I want to tell stories?
Yeah, I think there was, and it was with this work I did about growing up with my son, a child's journey. So I had this. I actually started making comics like that. So I was posting every like month or so. I was posting a little scene, a little cartoon or comic strip about him or us, So about my son and me and our everyday life, like funny things he would say or whatever cute stuff that would happen to us. And I started noticing that first it was really fun for me to make. I really enjoyed doing it. And then I also noticed that there was a good response from the people who were reading it, which is also very important. You know, it's really, I don't think it's never completely about doing something for yourself. No, it's also about doing it for other people. And if the other people's response is good, of course, then you're motivated to do it again.
That's very true.
Yeah. How about you?
For me, I feel like I studied to be rather a painter, so more into like gallery work or single images. I was also really into maybe the more conceptual stuff, more conceptual art as well. But what I really liked when I graduated and tried making comics was my parents understood it.
Yes, of course. See, so other people liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. But that kind of feedback was, it felt very different because if I showed them a painting, there would be maybe a couple more steps involved, like, oh, this is based off of this artist's work, and this is a response to this movement and whatnot. But again, I think it goes back to the accessibility of comics, and it's a medium that anyone can access and anyone can understand. It's nice and legible, and you can do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty fun.
Right. I think I had a moment actually, which I started studying at the School of Visual Arts, and I was studying for illustration, but I was very much into painting, and definitely when I was 20 years old, I was thinking, yeah, I will definitely have a gallery exhibiting my work, and I will definitely be an illustrator doing editorial and stuff like that. And quite soon I realized that I was not enjoying making a good image as much as I was enjoying telling a story.
Making good images.
Yeah, or maybe not that good images, but the story has to be good. Like for me, the story was more important than the image itself.
Nice and legible.
Yeah. So when I get illustration jobs, actually, I have a very strong imposter syndrome because I have the feeling like my images are not good enough. Also knowing maybe this feeling comes because I know that this kind of jobs are the ones I enjoy a bit less than the comic gigs, for example.
You feel like you have to make like a second or third kind of image in that regard. Yeah, the graphic novels, they have their own charm as well.
Oh, what's your daily life like? Oh my god, I'm very curious about this one actually.
Right now I am working on my second book, so it kind of revolves around that. Apparently I'm doing this.
Okay, so like, do you have a work routine or something?
I would love to say that I do, and it's always like written down. And
I'm always very suspicious about who says yes, I have a work routine.
There have been many attempts, and there are many lists on the desk, on the sticky notes. And to me, they feel like prayers. Like, I hope this happens tomorrow.
Should be like a little altar.
Yeah, like, okay, this is the plan. And it always like, I know that I'm gonna fail when I write 6 a.m.
Yes.
6 a.m. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. It never quite happens. But I feel like what ends up happening now is understanding that there's a cycle that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there are moments where I just love drawing, so I'm gonna take advantage of that. And then there are moments where I don't. And I try to, while I do try to power through them, I am just, well, I feel like it's like riding and meeting the deadlines. Deadlines are a great moment.
Deadlines are great. God of deadlines.
So in terms of like a routine, absolutely not. But it does revolve around comics making and yourself.
Yeah, I try to think about. I think it also depends a lot in which phase of the process you are, because if it's in the end phase in which I'm just drawing, I have all the storyboard, I have the text and everything, and then I just have to draw the comic. For me, it's extremely relaxing, and maybe that is the part in which I manage to be more structured. I take the kids, like the big kid goes to school, the little kid I take him to the kindergarten, then when I come back, I'm drawing. I know that's everything I have to do. I have to draw 2-3 pages or whatever, and then you go on with cooking or whatever. But the moment before, we're just like thinking about the story. This can take me years because I haven't managed to find that sweet spot in my daily life in which I can just think about the story. It never works. Like I try and tell myself, yeah, now you're going to use the next 3 hours to think about the next scene, and it never works. And then like the hour later, I am at the grocery store. I'm like, aha, I have a great idea, but I'm not able to write it down or something.
I feel the same way. And I think it ties back to our conversation about the images thing, because I didn't start out as a writer. Thinking about the actual story takes forever. And you can't, what's difficult is exactly as you say, you can't prompt yourself to do it, no matter how hard you try to schedule it in. It just doesn't. If it doesn't want to come out, it just doesn't.
And then if it does come out, like squeezed out, so forced to come out, then I don't really trust it. I really question it, like, is it good enough? Because I kind of like force it to come out.
And if you force it to come out and then you work on it, then you just have a pile of pages that you
that you're gonna throw out. You're gonna throw away the day after, right? Yeah, or maybe we will learn. Maybe you get better.
Hopefully, that is the hope. But for now, unsure how for me at least.
Yeah, it's funny when people ask me how long did you take to write this to make this book. It was, from the first idea to the publication, it was 5 years. But it was definitely not 5 years of work. It was like a lot of running around, so like looking at the idea from far away and approaching it again and leaving it again, forgetting about it for 3 months.
You gotta let it ferment, I think.
Yeah, that's kimchi.
Absolutely, yeah. You come back to it and you hope that it hasn't grown mold.
Yes, exactly. If it has, then just throw it out.
Guess not. Last two. I'm kind of dreading these. Oh my gosh.
I know which one it is.
Have there been any restrictions on storytelling in your country? Have you ever felt fear while writing these stories?
No, this is a good question, and it was not the one I was fearing. So
It's that
it's that one. Let's make it disappear. Restrictions on storytelling in my country, actually, no. So far, no, and I'm extremely grateful about that. Yeah. What about you?
Well, how much time do we have? Well, in terms of like comics, we're really free to do whatever we like, and again, the bravery. And comics have been great. We're really varied, and a lot of them are politically conscious as well. However, there has been a very concerning amount of censorship in film recently in the Philippines. And my work is about cockfighting or Davao.
Right.
And very recently, a documentary film has been given a limited release in the Philippines. It's called The Lost Sapongeros, which is about cockfighters, 34 of them who have disappeared, essentially, and the advent of something called e-Sapo, which is like an electronic streamed version of cockfighting. And they've been given a limited release. And there have been also multiple films as well who have been denied ratings, which also equates to the denial of distribution.
Right.
Have been pulled out from certain festivals because they refuse to cut a particular part of their film. So it's very concerning and very alarming. However, I think the positive side here is we're seeing a lot of communities coming together to hold smaller screenings, to really find a way to get these films seen.
Anyways.
Yes, and they really do bring up that this is a concerning thing that's happening, this censorship.
Is it happening? Is it new again? Is it worse?
Oh gosh.
Yes.
I feel like I feel like recently quite a few have been.
Yeah, but I think that's a worldwide tendency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like we're experiencing some kind of shift. I don't know if we want to talk about that.
No, I don't know if we want to.
We want to open our little can of
side.
worms.
Yes. This is a little side topic. Yeah, no, I haven't faced censorship ever in my life. I'm extremely grateful about that. But I do fear it somehow. I'm also not, maybe because I have never experienced it myself, I'm kind of thrilled, like interested about how, I don't know, like I kind of want to poke those people where it hurts to see what happens. So I've been thinking, I don't know if it will never turn out in a graphic novel, but my brother lives in the US, and I actually have a US passport. And I am so angry. I'm so angry about what's happening there right now. And I have this desire. I want to make a book that Trump will ban. Like I want to make a book that he will never want to see in his country. His country. Why did I even say his country?
The country he is in.
Country he unfortunately happens to be the president of.
What an honor that would be.
That would be great. Yeah.
With the whole censorship trend, and also just but it is quite positive that people are demanding like more visibility, more eyes on certain projects, which I feel like is the opposite of what they want anyway.
Yeah. Okay, that's good for this one. Now I know what to do. Have you read this?
Shredded.
Okay, so in Germany, climate activism is often centered on pushing policies. In the Philippines, climate action is often about survival, disaster, preparedness, thanks, and rebuilding community after devastation, right? How do you view climate action from a storyteller's perspective?
Well, I guess we can, again, I do start from a semi-selfish selfish point of view. So my work that talked about climate change was, I called it Prayer Born with Gills. It's about a mother kind of like fantasizing about what her child needs to have.
It's a beautiful comic, I read it.
Thank you. So it's again an anxiety that's thought about and whatnot. And I feel like I wrote it at a time where I was extremely pessimistic, but also the comic, I think, is kind of hopeful towards the end, realizing that this is a fantasy that she's creating, and there's a real world out there. And I feel like from a storyteller's perspective, also from someone in a very climate vulnerable country, one of the most, just by nature of our geography and where we are, it's difficult to be positive. It's hard to envision things. Although of course we must, as storytellers, I feel like that's our job to kind of envision a better world somehow. But it is a little bit difficult when it comes to things like climate action and climate change. In the Philippines, it's very dangerous to be a climate advocate and someone who really pushes for policies. It's quite dangerous in the Philippines. And so when we're doing things like disaster preparedness, it's not for lack of trying to push these policies, but this is, I feel like in the Philippines, it's like a complete uprooting of a lot of systems that have been like super ingrained into place. It's a matter of not just policy, it's urban planning as well. Things that have already been there and have been there for years. It's a lot of uprooting that, a lot of the plumbing. Yes. There's just a lot to get to that a lot of people don't want to address, and some people have been afraid to address. And of course, there are brave souls who still continue and to push for it as well. And we also have the matter of our people who actually are custodians of our land and how they are supported and how they can take care of things like our mountains and our rainforests, which are our first line of defense for things like typhoons, which is pretty insane. In the Philippines, how we have, I think it was in 2020 where we had like 3 back-to-back in like a single month. So it's difficult to be positive about it, and it's something that I'm trying to overcome, kind of, because these are things that are happening to people who look like me and could happen to myself at any time.
Yeah.
So it's pretty.
I know it's a super scary topic. It is a really scary topic, and I have never addressed it directly in my storytelling. I really haven't. I don't know if I haven't I don't know if I have been avoiding it on purpose, because it is something that I feel like I'm not really. It's so huge. I feel it's so big that I still haven't found a way somehow of channeling it through my own voice, my own means. I really, though, this is maybe the reason why I enjoyed the short story you made so much, because it's so on point, and it touches me also as a mother. It touches me in a very deep way, and I admired it a lot, the way you made it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So no, I've never, it's Super-GAU, my graphic novel starts with a catastrophe. It starts with an earthquake that causes a tsunami, and the tsunami causes this disaster in the Atomkraftwerk, how's that in English? In the nuclear plant of Fukushima. And that is a natural catastrophe. The reason why I wanted to use a natural catastrophe is because I wanted something that is bigger than humans, something that is bigger than us. It's just the earth had a hiccup and it turned a country upside down. And how is this different from catastrophes, natural catastrophes that are caused by climate change? It is different because climate change is man-made. That's why those are not neutral catastrophes somehow, and I feel this should be addressed more, definitely more in comics.
But I do feel in Super-GAU you do touch on this very important thing that we shouldn't be looking away from things.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something there as well in terms of like the interconnectedness, which I really, really loved. And the scene in spoiler? the scene in the homeless shelter, for example, where there was this one particular person who just insists on looking away. I thought that was very apt representation of that, and other people still insisting that we shouldn't. And I really like how everyone in your story is so different, and there's like an opportunity for everyone to find themselves somewhere in there. And I feel like that's also important in this kind of conversation, like interrogating where you stand and kind of where you position yourself in these kinds of disasters. And again, you said that it's a kind of neutral disaster, but I feel like it also lends the values to like are retained somewhat if it were a climate or a non-neutral disaster.
Yeah, well, definitely climate change is something that it's a problem of the entire planet. So there is really no way to look. There is nowhere to look. If you try to look away from it, there's nowhere you can look at because it's miserable everywhere.
Everyone's worried.
Everyone's worried,
and we should be.
Yeah. So maybe it's good that this was the last question.
Yeah, very apt that it was the last question. Also, it built the suspense.
Yeah, yes.
You were worried from the beginning.
I know. I was like, oh, it's coming. Yeah. So thank you so much for the conversation. I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think I feel like I learned a lot.